Hey guys, in this video I'll be going through 5 important mistakes that I see beginner 3D artists make all the time. I'll show you how you can not only look out for them, but prevent them from occurring. These things are crucial to get right, and if messed up can be detrimental to your success as an artist. So anyway, let's get started. Number 1. Overpopulated scenes and working with balance. A key thing to keep in mind when you're making a piece of artwork is how busy and how noisy your scene is. Detail is great, but too much detail and your work looks overpopulated and can lack focus. A very common way of expressing this is something called the 70-30 rule. Let 70% of your piece be free space to let your eye rest, and 30% be focusable detail. This becomes very important in things like hard surface, where you want your model to be as readable as possible while still keeping some of those details. This isn't limited to mesh, it can be applied to color, materials, and composition itself. So let's have a look at something. Here are 2 similar hard surface panels I quickly made in Blender. Which do you prefer? The one on the left, I have tried to follow the 70-30 rule in both materials and detail level. And the one on the right I haven't, and pretty much crammed as much detail in as I could, with 0 color variation. I definitely prefer the one on the left, but just in case, I asked my Instagram followers what they think, and over 60% of you agree. You can follow me on Instagram using the link in the description or @_WilsonCG. Number 2. Another huge issue I see plaguing beginner work is scale, and more specifically the lack of consistency. Your materials, lighting, and models could all be perfect, but if your scale's off, the whole scene falls apart. Luckily, this is a super easy thing to fix, and the easiest way I find is to download a human scale mesh from somewhere like TurboSquid, and put it in your scene. Now try and match everything to that scale. If you have a coffee mug, put it near the hands of the person first. Does the scale match? If so, great. If not, fix it. The same thing goes for anything, and once you fix this, the difference can be huge. Number 3. Never underestimate the importance of color grading and post-processing. This is something I see lots. Post-processing is a crucial step to selling your work. Your art could be 30 seconds away from the push it needs to stand out, and skipping post-processing and color grading can lead to a washed out and dull render that doesn't stand up to the effort you put in. Obviously, I can't teach color correction and post in 30 seconds, but I can give you some tips and recommend some great free courses on YouTube. Firstly, set the mood. The grade of a render can drastically change its feel. Take a look. Sometimes what works best is what's simplest. Look at the difference a 30-second touch-up in Lightroom makes to a render of mine. In this one, I actually pushed some blues into the shadows to make things a little bit gloomier. A little tip if you want to add a touch of realism is to add some uniform grain. This gives it a more natural look. Just don't add too much. Don't be afraid to add elements such as dust, lens flares, or clouds in Photoshop. It's not cheating. I don't get why some people think they need to make every single aspect of their artwork in the 3D software. Number 4. This has to be one of the biggest falls of any artist, especially when you're just learning. Use reference. You want to sculpt a head? Get some reference. You want to model a prop? Get some reference. Obviously, this becomes more and more important for mastering realism, but even with stylized work, it's best to get something to either model the style off of or for inspiration. Always make sure to look very closely at your reference and pick up any small details like notches, scratches, whether it's a round edge or a hard edge, because on their own, these things may seem small, but together they'll add up and put your work in the uncanny valley. Number 5. Presentation. This one is probably less important if you're still learning the basics, but when you become more established in 3D, you'll most likely want to start thinking about sharing your work either as a portfolio or on social media. Good presentation is often the deciding factor of whether your work gets attention or not. There are lots of different elements that make up good presentation, so I'll go through a few of what I think are the most important ones. Let's start with lighting. Often if you're presenting a prop or model, lighting should be bright, interesting, and give your work contrast. If you want more of a long format guide, I have a video here on how I like to light my props for presenting. Secondly, what you present. Obviously this is going to be different if you're doing an environment versus a prop or a character, but often more is better. Show wireframes, UVs, and different texture layers. If it's a sculpt, show a clay render. If it's an environment, show a different camera angle. Another thing I like to make sure is to stay away from using midtones as a background. In my opinion, they never look as good and can give things a wishy-washy feel. Also, if you're adding text, for example titles, make sure to pick a good font. No Comic Sans. Anyway guys, that's it for this video. I really hoped you learned something useful that you can apply to your own work, and if not, maybe it brushed off some cobwebs. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Any art shown in this video that isn't mine will be linked down below in the description, so be sure to check that out as well. Thanks.